Ukraine has warned of a critical situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant as Russian strikes in Kharkiv injured 6 and sparked fires, as per Regional Governor Ole Hubov. A separate daytime drone attack in Dnipro has killed 1 man, injured 20, and damaged medical as well as residential buildings. The Global Samud flotilla attempting to deliver aid to Gaza has reported that unidentified unlit vessels approached its boats before departing. Participants activated security protocols to prepare for a possible interception, according to media reports. Today, the U.S. government has shut down after the Senate rejected a short-term spending measure, halting critical economic data and furloughing 750,000 federal workers at a daily cost of $400 million. Analysts warn the stalemate amid partisan divides over health benefits could last longer than past closures. A severe rainstorm in Ukraine's Odessa has killed at least 9 people, including 1 child, after the city received nearly 2 months' worth of rainfall in just 7 hours. Mayor Gennady Trukhanov has warned that no sewer system could withstand such flooding. A powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake has struck the central Philippines, killing at least 60 people on Cebu Island, with officials warning the death toll could rise as rescuers searched collapsed buildings. The quake has reportedly injured 147 people, damaged 22 buildings, and triggered 379 aftershocks so far. The typhoon Boaloi, which slammed Vietnam last week, killing at least 29 people, leaving 22 missing, and damaging nearly 170,000 homes, with property losses estimated at $303 million, according to Vietnam's disaster management agency. The storm flooded Hanoi as well, destroying 34,000 hectares of crops, disrupted power, transport, and education. Taiwan has rejected U.S. pressure to shift half of its semiconductor production to America, with the island's lead tariff negotiator declaring it will not agree to such demands. This stalemate highlights rising tensions over global chip supply chains and tariff negotiations worldwide. In Greece, trains, ferries, and taxis have halted their services as the country witnessed a day of general strike against extended working hours, with protests expected in Athens. The strike, organized by Greece's largest public and private unions, targets a government plan to apply the 13-hour workday cap to single-job workers. Now we move on. European leaders meet in Copenhagen amid heightened security over recent Russian drone incursions and attacks on Danish airports. Eastern EU countries like Poland, Estonia have been hardest hit, prompting support for a multi-layered drone wall to detect and destroy Russian drones. Denmark has banned civilian drone flights and restricted traffic in Copenhagen ahead of the summit. Allies including Poland, the UK, Sweden, and the US are providing anti-drone support, while German frigate is docked in the city. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen have both pointed to Russia as the primary security threat, though Danish authorities have not officially confirmed Russian involvement in recent drone disruptions, as Russia denies these. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stress the need for stronger, cost-effective drone defenses. Leaders will discuss a $162 billion fund and joint defense procurement plans to strengthening Europe's military by 2030. Support for Ukraine and its EU candidacy will also be key topics amid tensions with Hungary. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Marian Duris. He's a European affairs expert, joins us live from Brussels. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, Prime Minister Mikel has this today earlier, he has mentioned that Europe is evolving from a peace project without arms to one that includes armed defense. In your view, what are the key challenges and opportunities for Europe as now it strengthens its defense capabilities?
Yeah, European defense strategies are changing, and I think the Copenhagen summit will be important in this case. There will be at least four thorny issues on the table. First is defense. The Commission tries to lead on flagship projects such as drone wall announced by EU's executive. But in the end, it will be the individual countries who will lead these projects in cooperation with NATO. Not so much with EU, maybe just for money of EU. It shows the real abilities and power of current leadership of the bloc. Second topic will be Russia's frozen billions. The Commission thinks it's found a clever loophole to free up sanctioned assets for so-called reparation loan for Ukraine if it can get countries on board. Such a dramatic move would require unanimous approval from countries as the frozen, but Hungary and Slovakia are unlikely to approve, nor is Belgium, as the frozen assets are held in Brussels-based bank account. The Commission still thinks it might be able to pull off its plan with the support of qualified majority and is arguing the scheme will boost Europe's own arms industry. But in real, these loan bonds or money transfers to Ukraine will not be really backed by frozen assets. The real guarantee will be by the member states. So burden of this loan can finish on the shoulder of European taxpayers, which is absolute nonsense. Third thing is new sanctions. It's a never-ending story, and now it targets expanded list of Russian and foreign banks and energy companies, including from China, UAE, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, which I assess as deliberate damage to Europe's relations with more and more partners. And fourth important topic, is potential Ukraine's EU membership. Some people say bloc's member countries need to give the green light, but there is not unanimity on this, and for more, Ukraine is not ready for EU membership. Ukraine is the country in the war without conditions met.
Right. With that in mind, now looking at the frozen Russian assets, which will be in the table today for this discussion in Copenhagen. So, how might these frozen Russian assets be used to fund the loan to Ukraine, and what will be the significance of this debate for the EU's countries?
Yeah, significance is quite high because with this, you are doing unprecedented step. So as I said before, it's very hard it will be hard mainly for taxpayers in the end. But as I said, Commission thinks it's found a clever loophole to free up these sanctioned assets, but it depends if there will be countries who will support. As I said, this move is requiring unanimous approval, yeah, but you don't have all countries on board. In real, these loan bonds and money transfers to Ukraine will not be really backed by frozen assets, as it's mentioned by many politicians. The real guarantee will be found in the end by the member states. So burden of this loan can finish on the shoulders of citizens of the member states.
Right. And now, given this slower pace of defense decision making, and particularly in democratic countries compared to authoritarian regimes, how can EU accelerate its defense investments and cooperation without compromising its values of democratic governance, according to you?
Yes, very good question. If I go to drone wall specifically, it's the EU initiative aimed at creating a multi-layered defense network to detect, track, and neutralize unauthorized drones. It involves cooperation among countries deploying technologies such as radars, acoustic sensors, electronic warfare systems, jammers, and interceptors. I understand that some European leaders are in huge panic because of the events that are happening. And I'm not surprised, because someone could say that they are reaping the fruits of their own politics and emotional ideological approach to the challenges. The first reason was the reliance of these leaders, on American support in the field of defense while Joe Biden was in the White House, and they understood him very well ideologically. But today, Donald Trump is sitting in the White House and rightly saying, Europe, you must be responsible for your own defense, first and foremost. So Europe will actually now nervously catch up on what it consciously missed. And the second reason is the excessively so-called green approach, which has not only caused the neglect of its own sovereignty, own defense, but has also caused damage to its own industry, including the arms industry, which has been overwhelmed by tons of bureaucratic green regulations. That is why we can see today that EU Commissioner's initiative on the drone wall is only an opening word, but the final word will be given to individual countries, especially in alliance cooperation. And the EU Commissioner may ultimately only be left with a discussion about who will pay for it. And of course, it will not be him as the initiator, but he will try to shift financial responsibility to the Europeans, to which, of course, the citizens of European states can respond adequately.
And Marian, lastly, how has Russia responded to these claims of airspace incursions in Europe in recent 2 weeks or recent months? And what did Denmark say about potential responsibility of Russia?
If I have good information from media, so Russia has denied deliberate involvement, calling the allegations unfounded and attributing them to false or exaggerated claims aimed at escalating tensions. For Estonia in particular, or this event in Estonia, Moscow asserted that the MiG-31 jets were on scheduled flight from Karelia to Kaliningrad, and that they did not violate airspace. It claimed the aircraft stayed over neutral waters and did not deviate from an agreed route. And there were accusations of so-called Western hostility, hysteria. Officials have accusing countries of Russophobic hysteria, in the claims or provocations and part of broader narrative against the Russian Federation. Of course, it is not excluded that these were not only statements made regarding the situation.
Right. With that, I would like to thank our guest, Marian Duris, for joining us from Brussels and sharing your insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Asia. The collapsed school building on Indonesia's main island of Java has left dozens of parents anxiously waiting outside for news of their children feared trapped under the rubble. Rescue teams are searching for survivors, with efforts stretching into the third day. Authorities earlier reported that 91 people were missing. So far, 3 bodies have been recovered, with the vast majority of presumed victims still trapped. Parents of the missing children stated that authorities must clear the rubble as soon as possible, as many parents await news of their loved ones. The local head of the search and rescue teams has said that the primary focus remains on those who are still alive. He also added that the rescue team could hear voices under the rubble, indicating that some victims are still alive. Let's listen into what the parents and local authorities have said about this situation.
Puingnya diambil ya secepatnya. Itu kan banyak dari wali santri yang mau kerja. Tapi sampai sekarang belum ada titik temu antara wali santri sama Basarnas. Hanya ke pimpinan yang memutuskan itu.
Belum sampai sekarang. Dari pihak tim SAR sudah. Tadi kita berinisiatif perempuan dengan wali santri, itu kita mau bantu dari tim relawan wali santri.
Reruntuhan bangunan ini merupakan tipe pancake atau reruntuhan bangunan berupa material beton yang bertumpuk dengan celah yang sangat sempit dan kondisi yang tidak stabil, serta dimungkinkan masih adanya korban yang masih bisa diselamatkan maka diperlukan operasi SAR dengan penanganan khusus.
Proses evakuasi tentunya kita fokus pada yang masih hidup ya. Terus sudah yang masih hidup, dan kita tentunya kan berhati-hati sekali karena kondisi bangunan yang runtuh itu, kemiringannya itu masih memungkinkan sekali untuk runtuh kembali. Masih banyak sekali yang masih terdengar untuk menangis untuk menjerit ya. Artinya mereka masih hidup.
Now we move on to our next news. Pope Leo has offered his strongest criticism yet of U.S. President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies. Pope Leo has questioned whether President Trump's immigration policies are in line with the Catholic Church's pro-life teachings. He has also criticized the treatment of immigrants in the United States, which he has called inhumane. The Pope has said that someone who says that they are against abortion but in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants in the United States is not pro-life. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson has responded to the Pope's remarks and said in a statement that President Trump was elected based on his many promises, including to deport criminal illegal aliens, and that he's keeping those promises. Pope Leo has offered his strongest criticism yet of U.S. President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies. Pope Leo has questioned whether President Trump's immigration policies are in line with Catholic Church's pro-life teachings. He has also criticized the treatment of immigrants in the United States, which he has called inhuman. The Pope has said that someone who says that they are against abortion but in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants in the United States is not pro-life. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson has responded to the Pope's remarks and said in a statement that Trump is elected based on his many promises, including to redeport criminal illegal aliens. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Gautam Mukherjee. He's a senior reporter joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Gautam Mukherjee, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, looking at these statements made by Pope Leo, it's very surprising and shocking. It's quite bold to make such statements. So, what do you think that how will MAGA, United States, U.S. President Donald Trump's supporters may view this?
Well, I think they're going to find it a very political statement from the Pope, who is ethnically American. So that's like a double whammy. He's an American Pope who is criticizing the President of the United States and his immigration policy. Now, as far as illegal immigration grows, it is a problem of, global proportions. We have it here in India. You certainly got it in Europe, and you've got it in America, and it is leading to all kinds of violence and drug dealing and terrorism in some cases. Certainly, many of the immigrants are not willing or unable to integrate with the people who are citizens of the country. They are also a drain on its resources because they have no jobs, but they need health care and housing, and without the jobs, they tend to either go in for low-paying jobs, thereby depriving the poorer sections of the local population, or they get into some form of crime. And all of it is not desirable, and Trump has taken a very hard stand against it, including not only immigration from Mexico or through Mexico, but also immigrate from all over the world who either overstay their visas or don't have any visas. So the Pope really has no business getting involved in humanitarian concerns over here. I think he should look after his Roman Catholic flock.
Then what do you think about this Pope's criticism of the treatment of immigrants? It's inhuman. What role do you think religious leaders should play in shaping public discourse, particularly on immigration? And how do you think how effective can these arguments be?
Well, I think the Pope should mind his own business and look after the Catholics of the world, not come in and try and criticize national policy in the United States. Next, he'll be doing it in Europe and elsewhere. This is not his job, and for him to be overtly political like this is not called for, is not desirable, and if other religious leaders start this, they are deviating from what they're meant to be doing.
And lastly, White House spokesperson defended President Trump's immigration policies. So how do you think political leaders can reconcile their campaign promises with broader ethical or religious considerations?
Well, I don't think that's the point at all. You have illegal immigrants. They need to be removed. That is the point. This ethical considerations, broader religious considerations are not the business of government. And neither is it the business of a religious leader to get involved in national policy. So the two things are not compatible.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Gautam Mukherjee for joining us and sharing your insight as a senior reporter. Thank you very much. Now we move on and we stay in North America. U.S. President Donald Trump on October 14th, just 2 weeks before Argentina's crucial midterm elections. The meeting comes amid ongoing negotiations for a $20 billion deal by the U.S. designated to stabilize Argentina's struggling economy and support its peso. This was announced by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and includes the possible purchase of Argentine public debt and a direct credit line from the U.S. Treasury. However, the deal has sparked controversy within Trump's administration, as some Republicans call the deal unfortunate. Javier Milei has praised the U.S. support as unprecedented, emphasizing its importance in helping Argentina meet debt repayments of over $8 billion due in 2026. Now we move on. President Lee Jae-myung has announced an 8.2% increase in South Korea's defense budget for next year, reaching 66.3 trillion won. Speaking on Armed Forces Day, Lee emphasized that peace depends on a strong security foundation. He said that the funding will boost and will prioritize cutting-edge technologies, including drones and robots. Further, President Lee took office in June after a snap election following the fall of Yoon Suk-yeol, who had imposed a brief martial law last December, leading to troop deployments across parliament and other buildings. Let's listen in to what President Lee Jae-myung has said.
세계 각지에서 협력과 공동 번영의 동력은 약해지고 갈등과 대립이 격화되는 각자 도생의 시대로 진입하고 있습니다. 대한민국의 평화와 번영을 위해서는 누구에게도 의존할 것이 아니라 우리 스스로의 힘을 더욱 키워야 합니다. 내년도 국방 예산을 전년에 대비해 8.2%로 대폭 늘어난 66조 3천억 원으로 편성해서 첨단 무기 체계를 도입하고 게임 체인저가 될 인공지능, 드론, 로봇 등 첨단 기술에 집중 투자할 것입니다.
Now for this discussion, we're joined by Dr. Sanjay Kumar. He's a journalist at the Korea Herald, joins us live from Seoul. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us today. Good to see you. Now, President Lee has emphasized the strong security foundation is essential for peace. How do you think the shift towards advanced technology will impact South Korea's military strategy, especially in the context of regional security threats?
The shift is seen from the perspective of self-reliant defense system approach of the new South Korean government. So instead of having submissive approach that was kind of alleged by the President Lee Jae-myung towards the former government, like in the former government, there was a kind of dependency. Like, of course, the US ROK alliance is ironclad, but still, there were people who were advocating just to go with this ironclad alliance, then having some self-defense capability enhancement to act as a game changer. But what President Lee Jae-myung is trying to say is that US ROK alliance has to be there. It is it is a very strong alliance, and it will be an answer. But what is different from former government is that instead of exposing the weaponry into public, he is trying to not offend North Korea and strengthen the South Korean self-capability of defense. And he is ready to invest more, as he announced today. And earlier also, the South Korean government's defense spending is not less. Like if you compare even in current circumstances, it is more than 1.4 times than the North Korea's GDP. So it is not a very different approach, but the approach is very strategic. So instead of exposition of weaponry, he is trying to softly send not just a message, but to enhance the capability of the South Korean defense system. And I'm sure that in coming years, he is trying to strengthen and boost the three-axis system of South Korean defense in the form of, like in Korean we say, Samchuk Chege, the three-axis system through which the military strategy in Korea tries to counter any kind of escalation from the north. And it can be done with the strategy of this kill chain, and then like the KAMD and KMP and some other strategies involved in this. Like, it's a comprehensive strategy. So that comprehensive strategy, I think Lee Jae-myung administration is trying to enhance, and he is going to add some elements of like in modern warfare, the conventional, like other than conventional warfare, it is changing. So that's why he was trying to bring new form of artificial technologies in the form of drone and other new technologies, and he's ready to invest. So it should be seen as like not just be reliant on US for everything, but also to have South Korea's own defense system and own defense capability too.
And that's really enlightening. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Sanjay. And lastly, with this 8.2 increase in the defense budget, how do you think President Lee is expecting the South Korean citizens to respond to this move, especially considering the recent political instability with former President Yoon Suk-yeol?
President Lee Jae-myung is trying to convince the public that these all spendings are not to expand or like intensify the hostility towards North, but for the self-capability of South Korea's defense in long run. Because for a peaceful coexistence policy to be in practice, dialogue is the answer. But like with only dialogue, South Korea cannot be confident. So this is how he is trying to disseminate the message so that he can galvanize the support of Korean people. And even the position, I think it is a matter of defense and North Korea. So I think he is not going to have a like strong backlash. Yeah.
With that, I would like to thank Dr. Sanjay for joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now, well, that's all we have time for. We will